said we're all going to be direct to write a letter home every month. And I went for interrogation one day, and they had a letter from my parents. That was the first mail that I received. I did get to write a letter home, but by this time a letter was a postcard size. They had 6 lines on half of that postcard, and you could write whatever you could put on 6 lines about that much space. To write a letter, though, you went for an interrogation. You had a list in 30 minutes of rank propaganda from the interrogator. Then you could write a rough draft of what you were going to say. And then they sent that to the censors. If they passed that, it would come back in a couple of weeks, and then you went for another 30-minute harangue. And then you could write the final copy of it, and then it may or may not ever get mailed. I think my wife got 7 or 8 letters from me while I was there. I received 7 letters from my wife and my parents combined. Total of 7. I got 5 of those in the last 2 weeks that I was there. So delivery service was not Joe Morrow did a lot better job than Buck Morgan. They were delivering mail than what we did there. It said the Bulldog prison, or what we call the Hanoi Hilton, was built by the French back in the late 1800s. It was a maximum security prison. There had been a raid to rescue people at a camp called Sun Cave, which was about 30 miles west of Hanoi. There were no prisoners there. They had moved out about a month before. But the raid took place anyway, and spoken to the raid commander, and they knew it was a possibility there wasn't going to be anybody there. But they had trained for this for about a year. And they said just if there's a possibility that just one, they're still going to go. So they came in one night, November of 1971, and made the raid. Very successful raid. They got in, checked every cell, there was nobody there, and got back out and didn't lose a single person. But that caused the Vietnamese to go into a full panic mode, and they closed all the little camps surrounding Hanoi, the Briar Patch, the one they called Camp Faith, and several others. Small, and they moved everybody into the big Bulldog prison, or the Hanoi Hilton. And that was really a blessing in disguise, because now they moved into great big cells. They were probably designed for 35 Vietnamese, and 50 of us in there. But after a few weeks, they thinned us down. I think 47 is what we had most of the time, 48. We didn't sleep on wooden pallets anymore. There was a concrete slab right down the center of the cell, built up about that high, tapered, and that's what you slept on. And believe me, there's a big difference between sleeping on a 1-inch thick board, a 2-inch thick board. 2-inch thick boards, we call those the extra firm. But concrete, that was the Posturepedic extra firm. That was hard. In the summertime, it was good because you strip off and just lay bare on the concrete, and it kind of absorbed a lot of moisture, so you didn't perspire 24 hours a day. But in the wintertime, it was brutal to lay on that cold concrete. They started bombing again in early 1972. Well, back to the big cells, we had, I said, 50 people there. And now, here, for so long, we just had a couple of people to talk to. Now you've got all these people and their varied backgrounds. We started education programs. We didn't have any writing utensils or writing paper, but we had people that were fluent in Spanish, German, French, so we had language classes. And then every night we had entertainment. Someone would set up at the end of the cell block and tell a story, tell a movie that they'd seen, or tell a travel that they'd taken. We had his parents owned a theater, and he was had worked in the theater from the time he was a little kid. And he remembered every darn movie he saw. And he was our chief movie teller. And he spent a couple hours telling these movies. Some of them were outstanding. And so I made it a point when I got home to go see some of those movies. Not a damn bit of resemblance to the stories he told, but they were pretty good. And things weren't, even when things were going rough, things were not always looking doom. We did have our lighter moments. We had one guard we called Magoo, and Magoo would got into a routine of when you come and set your toilet bucket up. Our toilet facility was a 10-quart tin bucket, and sometimes you got to empty that every day, and sometimes you didn't empty it until it was running over. But usually every day they'd open up a cell and you'd set that out, and they'd have one of the other prisoners pick it up and take it out of your cell. Well, Magoo started a routine of having come out of the cell, get down on your knees, and he'd give you a facial massage early in the morning. Brighten up the cheeks a little bit. This one morning, Bob Purcell was out there and held down, and Magoo started giving his morning tune-up, and Bob said, "Is that all you got? Is that as hard as you can hit? You SOB?" And started really hollering at him, and of course Magoo kept really batting him around. Finally hit him and knocked him over. It went on for several minutes, and finally quieted down. He came back to the cell, and as soon as things all quieted down, he got on the wall and says, "I think Magoo's learning to speak English." I said, "What makes you think that?" "I told the SOB to hit me harder, and he did." But anyway, in 1972, then they took 220 of us and moved us up to just about on the China border. We're, I think, 3 kilometers south of the Chinese border. Would have been a very picturesque place to be, depending on the different circumstances. The camp was built right into the side of a mountain almost. Big jungle-covered mountain outside, all kinds of different birds. You can see it out there. Got outside. We weren't guarded as close there, and we had fairly good communication from one building to the other. There were about 20 to 25 of us in each building there. There was a waterfalls in the mountain behind us, came down, and then the stream came right through the camp. And they built these buildings right over that stream. So now instead of having a 10-quart steel bucket for a toilet facility, we had a hole in the floor that landed down in that stream. I felt sorry for the villagers that lived downstream from us. But that was, they had indoor plumbing. We got a little better food there, and we started again getting more of it. We started getting a little bit of canned meat from some of the communist bloc countries every now and then. And we were getting an occasional package from home. They started in 1968 and told us we were going to get packages from home. And a few people did get packages, but they had been very plundered. There wasn't much there. I don't know, sometime later that I was called in interrogation one day, and they told me I had a package from my family. And he handed me a little bag of hard Christmas candy and said, "That's all your wife sent." And then my cellmate, he got a pack of juicy fruit gum. "That's all your wife sent." But anyway, they were sending 6-pound packages of stuff. My wife was sending vitamins and medicines, aspirin, and something like that, but they confiscated all that. But in the later years, then they started giving us some of the vitamins that they confiscated, until they found out that some of them might have had contraband inside them, or could have had. So then they didn't give us the pills. Actually, you went out in the morning and they would cut open the aspirin or the vitamin pills to make sure there was nothing inside of them before they would every one of them. So for probably close to a year, I did get a vitamin probably 3 or 4 times a week. It was while we were up at this place up on the China border, we called it the Dog Patch, that camp commander came around one day, and there was no electricity there, so we didn't have a camp radio, but he came around to read us the Vietnamese newspaper, the headlines that the B-52s were bombing in North Vietnam. And this is October of 1972. And that was probably the best news we heard. It was really disheartening and dejecting during that time. They stopped the bombing in 1968, and there was no provisions for us to be out of there. And the Vietnamese even thought there was going to be provision for that because they got us all ready to go. But anyway, they were bombing with the B-52s, and we knew that something was going to happen. And then at Christmas time, again, they came back around and told us that read the newspaper accounts of the B-52 bombings. The guys that were still in Hanoi in the building, these were big cells and had were quite high with a big arched window. And when they first started bombing again, they would put a ladder up there and the guard would get up there with their machine guns and make everybody lay on the floor. But when the B-52 come, those guys disappeared and they never saw them again. And so the guys could stand up in the window and watch the fireworks going on at night. January then, they came around, or they didn't come around, we saw a bunch of trucks coming to camp. So we're just based on the way things had been going, we're getting out of here. And all these trucks, so we rolled up our gear. We didn't have a lot of stuff. We had 2 little cotton blankets and a straw mat to roll up, and an extra pair of clothes, so everything fit into a roll about that big. But whenever you moved, they would come in and the guard would go like this, that meant roll up. So we had our stuff all rolled up on the cots about 10 o'clock at night. And the interrogator who usually covered our cell came in. He had his little kerosene lantern and he looked around. Who tell you? We're all rolled up ready to go. And nobody had to tell us all we had to do is look out the window and see the activity going on. But sure enough, they loaded us into the trucks and we headed back to Hanoi. When we moved up there, it took us 3 nights, traveling all night. We didn't travel during the day. Going back, it was just a 1-day drive to Hanoi, rougher than the devil, but we went back to Hanoi. And shortly after that, then the first time that we were ever there, where they recognized our senior military rank structure, and had the senior officer call us all out into the formation, and they read the protocol and released prisoners that had been signed, and we deducted from that we were going to be released within 14 days of that signing, so we knew about the date that we were going to be leaving there. And sure enough, then on the night of the 11th of February, again they came around. I got the senior man that was going to be going home to have us all come out. We were given shoes, real shoes. Up to this point, we had rubber sandals occasionally, but most of the time we were barefoot. They came around with giving us real shoes, real pants and shirt, and a jacket, and a little duffel bag, 2 packs of their best cigarettes, and because we're going to be leaving the next morning. And we got on the little buses the next morning, more of a van, 20 people on each bus, and drove through the streets of Hanoi. Got probably a couple of miles from the airport, and we stopped, and we sat there and sat there. They said, well, there's a problem with negotiations. And so lunchtime come, they offered us into a room about this size, and there were 120 of us going home that day. And, they brought us a sandwich to eat, and about half a cup of beer. And probably then 3 o'clock that afternoon, they finally come back and load on the buses, and we went to the airport. We got to the POW airport, and there sat this beautiful Air Force C-141. I had never seen one before, and they came in the inventory after I was shot down. I knew they held at least 150 people, and it's only 120 of us. And they unloaded those first 2 buses, 40 people, and that thing closed up its doors, and away it went. And no one on the bus I was on said a word, but we all, after we've talked since then, had the same thought that something went wrong. They bugged out and we're going to be going back to the Hilton for the night. But it turned out they were sending 3 airplanes, only putting 40 on each airplane. I got out on the 3rd airplane the first day of the release. Flew to the Philippines, spent 4 days there, going physical, and then back to Scott Air Force Base down in St. Louis, Illinois. That's where my family had been. My youngest boy was not quite 2 years old when I got back, and I was 7 years old, or 9 years old. A little guy like that, and on his shoulder high, it's a pretty shocking change. But anyway, they talked about the welcome home that most of them didn't get. By the time I came home, they had changed completely, and came into the city of Ladysmith. The whole city, I think, turned out. Schools let out, and we pulled right downtown Ladysmith from the Soapy Groom's jewelry store, and I think the whole city was there. It was a fabulous welcome home. I stayed another 3 years in the Air Force and retired, moved to Eau Claire, and that's what I've been ever since. So that's my story. Stay on. Thank you very much.
Go. Thank you for your service.
Thank you guys. Thank you all. Go ahead, DC.